The SG radar scope glows inside a cramped combat information center, its green sweep tracing shapes that might be enemy ships or might be nothing at all. Outside, a heavy cruiser drives through iron-bottom sound, engines steady, guns trained outward into darkness that offers no margin for error. By late 1942, American warships have already been lost here in shocking numbers. 4 heavy cruisers destroyed in a single night at Savo Island. Others torpedoed, burned, or crippled before their crews fully understood what was happening. And still, the Navy keeps sending cruisers back into the slot. They return because they must. They return even as commanders know that night engagements in these waters have followed a pattern: Japanese ships detecting first, firing first, striking from beyond expected range. Modern American cruisers, armed with radar and 8-inch guns, are being caught in a fight they were not designed to win. Ship after ship vanishes beneath black water. Reports speak of torpedoes appearing without warning, of searchlights cutting through confusion, of formations breaking apart in seconds. So why is this happening? Why are well-trained crews aboard heavily armed ships repeatedly reacting instead of dictating the fight? And why, despite mounting losses, does the Navy refuse to step back? Guadalcanal is not just an island, it is a deadline. Since U.S. Marines landed on 7 August 1942, Henderson Field has become the pivot point of the South Pacific. If Japanese forces recapture it, their bombers regain control of the sea lanes between America and Australia. That cannot be allowed. Supplies must move at night. Reinforcements must cross contested water. And so cruisers and destroyers steam north again and again into confined seas where visibility collapses and reaction time shrinks to seconds. Yet night after night, the Imperial Japanese Navy seems to own the darkness. Their destroyers and cruisers appear without warning, launch torpedoes from ranges Americans did not believe practical, then close for gunfire while confusion spreads across U.S. formations. After-action reports describe blips on radar screens that fade or multiply, messages pass too slowly, orders delayed as officers struggle to distinguish friend from foe. The result is often the same: sudden explosions, fires climbing into the superstructure, and another hull settling into black water. This is the environment in which USS San Francisco, a New Orleans-class heavy cruiser commissioned in 1934, must operate. She was not designed for knife-fight engagements at 2,000 or 3,000 yards in total darkness. She was built for long-range gunnery duels in daylight. Yet by autumn 1942, design assumptions matter less than survival. Somewhere in this cycle of loss and necessity, the Navy begins to understand that courage alone is not enough. Survival will demand the adaptation of technology, of doctrine, of human response under shock. And the first unmistakable warning that the system itself is flawed was delivered in a single devastating hour off Savo Island. On paper, American heavy cruisers represented the logical outcome of interwar naval treaties. USS San Francisco displaced roughly 9,950 tons standard, mounted 9 8-inch 55 caliber guns in 3 triple turrets, and could exceed 32 knots. Her armor belt, up to 5 inches thick, protected machinery and magazines at the ranges planners expected future battles to be fought. Her fire control system combined optical rangefinders with mechanical analog computers designed to calculate solutions for targets tens of thousands of yards away. Everything about her silhouette suggested balance and precision, but balance assumed clarity, and the Solomon Islands offered none. American doctrine emphasized gunnery first. Torpedoes were carried, but in limited numbers and with shorter effective ranges than those fielded by Japan. U.S. cruisers trained extensively for daylight engagements, where spotting aircraft and visual identification shaped tactics. By contrast, the Imperial Japanese Navy invested years refining night surface warfare. Its destroyers carried a Type 93 Long Lance torpedo, oxygen-fueled, nearly invisible in its wake, capable of running more than 20,000 yards at high speed. Japanese crews drilled relentlessly in coordinated night maneuvers, emphasizing surprise, aggressive illumination, and rapid torpedo salvos before closing with gunfire. By 1942, that difference was measurable. If Japanese ships could launch torpedoes from beyond effective American detection and reaction range, they controlled the tempo of engagement. An American cruiser might not even know it had been targeted until a detonation tore through hull plating. In confined waters like the slot, maneuver space was limited. Radar provided warning, but early sets lacked the precision and procedural integration to convert detection into immediate, decisive action. The problem was not bravery. Crews performed under fire with discipline and resolve. The problem was systemic. Ships engineered for one style of war facing an opponent who had mastered another, and the consequences of that mismatch would become painfully clear on 9 August 1942, when Allied cruisers guarding Guadalcanal encountered a night assault that shattered assumptions in less than 60 minutes. It happens fast, so fast survivors later describe it in fragments. On the night of 9 August 1942, Allied cruisers patrol near Savo Island, screening the vulnerable transports that had landed Marines on Guadalcanal 2 days earlier. The formation includes American and Australian heavy cruisers positioned in what commanders believe are protective arcs. Confidence is cautious but real. Radar is present. Lookouts are posted. Shortly before midnight, a Japanese force under Vice Admiral Genichi Mikawa approaches undetected through the darkness. Torpedoes are launched before most Allied ships understand an enemy column is nearby. Moments later, searchlights snap on, and gunfire follows. USS Quincy, USS Vincennes, USS Astoria, and HMAS Canberra are struck repeatedly. Fires spread rapidly. Ammunition cooks off. Bridges are shattered. Within roughly an hour, 4 heavy cruisers are sinking or mortally damaged. The defeat at the Battle of Savo Island becomes one of the worst surface losses in U.S. naval history. Radar contacts have been reported by some ships, but confusion over bearings and command authority delayed action. Communication failures compounded uncertainty. Captains hesitated to open fire without positive identification. That hesitation cost minutes, and minutes in night combat equals survival. The psychological impact is profound. Sailors begin referring to the surrounding waters as Iron Bottom Sound, a grim acknowledgement of wrecks settling beneath the surface. Yet the strategic situation leaves no room for withdrawal. Japanese reinforcement convoys, the so-called Tokyo Express, continue to run troops and supplies down the slot under cover of darkness. If Henderson Field falls, the entire campaign collapses. In the weeks after Savo, the Navy intensifies radar training and reviews doctrine. Destroyers are repositioned as pickets. Fire control teams drill to reduce response time, but adaptation lags behind necessity, and when American forces next meet the enemy at night off Cape Esperance in October, they will discover that early detection is only the first step towards solving a far more complex problem. On the night of 11 to 12 October 1942, American forces achieve something they had not managed at Savo Island. They detect the enemy first. Rear Admiral Norman Scott's Task Force 60 full positions near Cape Esperance to intercept a Japanese bombardment group bound for Guadalcanal. Radar contacts appear clearly. Orders are given. This time, U.S. ships open fire before Japanese crews realize they have been sighted. The initial exchange feels decisive. Star shells illuminate silhouettes. American 8-inch guns fire at close range, scoring damaging hits on the Japanese cruiser Oba. For several minutes, the engagement suggests that radar advantage combined with aggressive action can reverse the pattern of defeat. Tactical surprise shifts sides, but night battles rarely remain orderly. Confusion soon intrudes. Friendly ships maneuver across lines of fire. Identification becomes uncertain in smoke and darkness. The destroyer USS Duncan is caught in crossfire and later sinks. USS Boise takes heavy damage from Japanese gunfire, although American forces claim a tactical victory. The cost reveals lingering weaknesses, communication gaps, recognition failures, and the difficulty of coordinating multiple vessels in confined waters under limited visibility. The Tokyo Express continues despite losses. Japanese reinforcements still reach Guadalcanal. The fundamental challenge remains. Detection must translate into disciplined, immediate execution. Radar alone does not guarantee dominance. It requires doctrine aligned with its strengths. For USS San Francisco, the lessons are accumulating. The cruiser operates in a fleet still learning how to integrate technology with instinct. Meanwhile, intelligence reports indicate that Japan plans a larger effort to bombard Henderson Field and reverse the campaign's momentum. The next engagement will not be a limited interception. It will be a direct confrontation in Iron Bottom Sound involving battleships, cruisers, and destroyers at ranges where hesitation proves fatal and structural resilience determines who survives until dawn. There is a measurable silence before fleets collide at night, a tightening of procedures, a repetition of bearings and speeds. A final verification of readiness. On 12 to 13 November 1942, USS San Francisco steams into Iron Bottom Sound as flagship of Rear Admiral Daniel J. Callahan's force. The mission is urgent: intercept a powerful Japanese group, including battleships He and Kirishima, intent on bombarding Henderson Field. The American formation consists of 5 cruisers and 8 destroyers arranged in column. Radar contacts appear intermittently as opposing forces converge in restricted waters. Callahan, operating from the bridge rather than the Combat Information Center, delays opening fire while attempting to clarify ship positions. The caution reflects legitimate concern over friendly fire, but time is limited. Shortly after 1:40 a.m., Japanese searchlights blaze across the water, illuminating American ships at close range. Engagement distances shrink to under 3,000 yards. San Francisco's 8-inch guns, designed for long-range duels, now fire at near point-blank targets. Muzzle flashes disrupt night vision. Ships on both sides maneuver unpredictably. Communications falter as damage accumulates. Amid the confusion, San Francisco mistakenly fires on the light cruiser USS Atlanta, contributing to her crippling damage. The error underscores the chaos of the engagement. Almost immediately, Japanese return fire concentrates on the flagship. Shells strike the bridge area, destroying command spaces and killing senior officers. The battle ceases to resemble doctrine. It becomes survival under shock. As heavy-caliber rounds continue to land, the chain of command fractures. Yet guns keep firing, engines continue turning, and within minutes, the question confronting San Francisco is no longer whether the mission will succeed. It is whether the ship can endure the punishment now focused upon her. The impact sequence is relentless. Heavy shells tear through USS San Francisco's superstructure, obliterating portions of the bridge and killing Rear Admiral Callahan and Captain Casson Young. Fire control positions are shattered, communications lines are severed, steel fragments ricochet through compartments. Yet the cruiser does not fall silent. With senior leadership gone, surviving officers and petty officers assume control in fragments. Gun crews operate under local command. Damage control teams seal ruptured compartments. Counterflood where necessary, and attack fires erupting across the ship. Estimates later record approximately 45 shell hits and roughly 25 separate fires. Despite this, the engineering plant remains functional. Critically, no catastrophic flooding occurs below the waterline. The battle in Iron Bottom Sound continues around her, but San Francisco manages to withdraw under her own power. Casualty lists grow. 77 crewmen are dead, more than 100 are wounded. The superstructure resembles twisted framework rather than finished design, yet buoyancy and propulsion persist. That combination structural integrity maintained under extreme stress marks the difference between a wreck and the survivor. In the days that follow, temporary repairs allow the cruiser to reach Espiritu Santo and then Pearl Harbor. Photographs of the damage circulate widely. They serve not only as evidence of ferocity but as data. The Navy studies where shells penetrated, how fires spread, and why vital systems endured. Hard lessons emerge: integrate radar more closely with command decisions, refine formation tactics, improve communication flow between bridge and combat information center. San Francisco's survival does not erase losses from November 1942, but it demonstrates that adaptation is possible even after catastrophic engagement. And as shipyard crews begin reconstruction, the Navy prepares to test whether those lessons can shift the balance of night warfare in the Pacific. Repairs begin in late 1942 and extend into early 1943. Sections of San Francisco's bridge are removed entirely and rebuilt. Radar systems are upgraded, improving surface search reliability. Anti-aircraft batteries are strengthened in response to evolving threats. Structural reinforcements address vulnerabilities revealed by close-range fire. The reconstruction is not cosmetic. It reflects analysis of battle damage and deliberate adjustment. Meanwhile, fleet doctrine evolves. Radar operators receive intensified training to interpret contacts rapidly and accurately. Commanders emphasize clearer communication between bridge and combat information center. Destroyers assume more defined screening roles. By mid-1943, American night fighting procedures are more cohesive, informed by experience rather than theory. San Francisco returns to service in time to support operations in the Central Pacific. She participates in bombardments during the New Georgia Campaign and later operates with carrier task forces. By 1944, American naval power has expanded dramatically. Radar-directed fire control improves anti-aircraft defense during major engagements such as the Battle of the Philippine Sea. Japanese surface forces, once aggressive in night action, appear less frequently in contested waters. The cruiser earned 17 battle stars over the course of the war, reflecting sustained operational service. She supports amphibious landings, provides naval gunfire, and contributes to a fleet increasingly confident in both daylight and night engagements. The transition from precarious defense in 1942 to strategic dominance by 1944 illustrates how cumulative adaptation alters outcomes. When the war ends in August 1945, San Francisco remains afloat, scarred but active. She is decommissioned in February 1946 and eventually sold for scrap in 1959. Yet her story does not conclude with dismantling. Portions of her battle-damaged bridge are preserved, ensuring that the lessons of Iron Bottom Sound remain visible long after the campaign itself fades into memory. At Land's End in San Francisco, a section of USS San Francisco's bridge stands exposed to Pacific wind and salt air. The steel is pierced and warped, its surfaces bearing the unmistakable signatures of shell impacts from November 1942. Visitors see damage not abstracted in reports but fixed in metal. The memorial faces west, oriented toward the ocean and, by extension, toward Guadalcanal. Time alters perception. The Pacific Campaign is now studied in archives, measured in maps and statistics. Yet the bridge fragment compresses that history into tangible form. It represents a ship designed under treaty limitations, tested under unexpected conditions, and preserved because it endured. The survival of San Francisco did not hinge on flawless design. It emerged from layered response radar operators interpreting uncertain data, officers recalculating under pressure, sailors sealing compartments and fighting fires despite the loss of command. In 1942, the U.S. Navy entered the Splot with procedures unsuited to the environment. By 1944, it operated with integrated radar doctrine and coordinated formations, capable of countering night threats effectively. Many ships did not survive long enough to contribute to that evolution. Their hulls remain beneath the waters of Iron Bottom Sound. San Francisco's endurance allowed her scars to become instruction. Standing at Land's End, one sees not triumph but continuity, steel shaped for war, reshaped by impact, then repurposed as memory. The Pacific looks calm beyond the cliffs. In 1942, it demanded constant motion, rapid adaptation, and refusal to yield, even when structure and leadership were torn apart. The battered bridge does not speak, but its presence suggests what the campaign required: the ability to learn in darkness and keep moving until daylight returned.